Employment and asks, what new legislation introduced by her is coming into force next week?
The Honourable Paula Bennett.
Mr Speaker, 2 new pieces of legislation come into force next week. Both of these deliver on National's pre-election manifesto promises. The Social Security New Work Test Incentives and Obligations Act comes into force on Monday, and the Fresh Start or Children, Young Persons and Their Families, Youth Courts Jurisdiction and Orders Act comes into force next Friday, the 1st of October.
Supplementary.
Chester Borrows.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Supplementary to the Minister. What changes will these 2 pieces of legislation make?
The Honourable Paula Bennett.
Mr Speaker, the social assistance legislation rebalances expectations and obligations. It supports this government's belief that those who can work should be actively looking for work. The Fresh Start legislation is aimed at the country's 1,000 most persistent serious young offenders. This means from Friday 1 October, youth court judges will have a greater toolbox of options, including new parenting, mentoring, drug and alcohol rehabilitation orders, and this allows young offenders to be held to account while providing those greater supports that are so necessary to turn their lives around.
Sir William Sewell.
To the Minister, will the introduction of work test requirements for unemployment benefit and domestic purposes benefit recipients in Canterbury be delayed due to the effects of the earthquake? And if so, how long will they be delayed for?
The Honourable Paula Bennett.
Mr Speaker, yes, Cabinet approved delays to those on Monday. They will be delayed until the 1st of March next year.
Chester Borrows.
Speaker to the Minister. How many people will be better off because of these changes?
The Honourable Paula Bennett.
Mr Speaker, the Social Security New Work Test Incentives and Obligations Act means all 336,000 beneficiaries will benefit from the legislated CPI changes. About 28,000 people will benefit from increased abatement levels, which will cost $53 million. This means those on the invalids or domestic purposes benefit will get more money in their pocket if they are working part-time.
Jacinda Ardern.
Supplementary to the Minister. How much additional funding has been invested in alcohol or drug programs since she created the new alcohol and drug orders? And does she believe this will be sufficient to cope with the 80% of young people who appear before the youth court and committed their crime under the influence of drugs or alcohol?
The Honourable Paula Bennett.
Mr Speaker, between the mentoring, parenting and drug and alcohol orders, there will be 1,232 new places. For drug and alcohol itself, there are 32 places in residential drug and alcohol programs to combat that very serious end of it. There's about $9.4 million going into those sorts of programs. Contracts have been negotiated and are going out to community organisations to date.
Question on.
Point of order.
Point of order, the Honourable David Parker.
Sir, I seek leave to table a document prepared by the Accident Compensation Corporation last year which says that neither Victoria nor South Australia have a threshold for hearing aids for work related to hearing loss.
Leave is sought to table that document. Is there any objection? There is no objection. Question